Oh, yeah, it's 5:15.
Yep, it is now. We'll call the September 9th Aviation Board of Commissioners meeting to order. All members are present, and we have three guests, David Sloan, Delaney Geiger, and Josh Fentz. I guess the next first order here is to approve the August minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Do I hear a
To
motion?
approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, Gene makes the motion, John seconds the motion. Any discussion or comments or? All right, hearing none, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? None? Okay. All right, approval of claims. Let's see. Where did I find those at here?
So we tried something new this month, as we talked last month, trying to give you guys a little bit more detail on the finances and where they're coming from and where they're going to. So this is the report that Kelsey and I get from the clerk's office every month, and it kind of shows a breakdown.
Looks like
The big one?
yeah, it says appropriation detail history.
That right there.
Oh,
And so that just kind of shows you guys where each one of the different appropriations comes from, where the money is going, and it gives a little bit more of a description. If you guys like the older style where it kind of streamlines it and just shows the vendors and how much was spent, we can go back to that, or we can just show you, this is kind of a full breakdown. I mean, if the guys go out and buy a fuel filter, instead of seeing Napa, a blank amount for the month, this shows you guys every single purchase, what we were doing, and where that money went for each one of the different appropriations. So I wasn't sure how detailed you wanted to get with the claims, but that's what the claims do look like when we get those in from the clerk's office.
I wouldn't mind seeing it for at least a few months until we get a better feel for it.
Okay. But were there any specific questions over? The nice thing with this appropriation report is it does kind of spell out what each one of the different purchases is. It says in the description, Napa fuel filter and, what truck it goes to. We can track all of that, so. Looking here, we replaced one of the pilot valves on the jet truck, and we ordered that from DTS Aviation this month, and it was a pretty quiet month when it comes, we were busy with our construction project, so I know that kept all of us pretty busy this month. But any specific questions?
yeah. Which column is actually this month's expenditures?
So, it shows, here, just go to the front first. Oh, that's all payroll. So right here is the name of the company that the money went to, what the invoice number was, the description of the product purchased, and then right here is the amount, and then that's the balance in that line item over here.
Okay, so this is the monthly. Okay, but that's not,
And so that's out of the appropriation 220, which is our supplies.
okay, so our total claims for the month, do we
The very
have a
last
total?
page.
That much?
Because we had one of our AEP payments.
Okay. I was gonna say, that number was way higher than normal, so,
Yep, so we had one of our AEP payments that went through last month.
you s- You seeing that, the claims for the month with 200, well, you got a different number down here.
Down where, Dan?
The grand total line.
Yeah, the grand total.
296.
Yep,
The grand total's the one we're looking at?
correct.
Okay. So the claims for a month of $296,470.74.
Yep.
Yep.
But 230, that was the AUP.
Yeah.
So what you were looking at, Dan, so this is broken down by appropriation, so 230, these are all the amounts that came out, and then that's the total amount out of that appropriation. And so on the last page, that 230,000 that you saw, that's the total out of the 449 appropriation. So the total for the whole 2206 fund was the 296,470.74.
Okay. And then our fuel,
That one will come up in a little bit. That's not in this report.
it's not in here?
That's not in this report.
Oh, wow.
So this is just the city's, this is what comes out of my normal budget. This is not the fuel business. We were trying to, last month, there was some confusion between the fuel and what we spend at the city, so we were trying to really separate that to show what those two different funds were.
Okay.
And please, look at this. If you guys have ways that you would like us to compile this data, I mean, most of it's in CSV files, so we can make Excel spreadsheets to try and make it easier for you. I mean, we'll work to try and give you exactly what it is you would like.
Okay, thank you.
So are there questions on this portion?
Ooh,
Okay. Do I hear a motion for approval of this claims of $296,470.74?
So moved.
All right.
I'll do a second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in
John, did
favor?
you move that, or did Steve? I just,
It was, John moved and
Okay.
Gene seconded it.
thank you, sorry.
If there's no further discussion on that, then all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous. And that was the approval of claims 296,470 and 74 cents. Okay.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the detail. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, you said there was more,
We'll get to the fuel report in a minute.
okay.
I think next on the agenda is the engineer's report.
All right, engineers report then.
Alrighty, let me share my screen. Looks like it's up there pretty well. So first up is the runway 27 obstruction mitigation. Nothing really to report with this. We sent everything to the FAA back in June, and now we're just waiting for them to close out the grant. So they've received all the documentation from us. We did, I think, go back and forth on one thing, but they've had everything for about a month now, that when they have comments. So I think it's just a matter of them closing it out, and they're a little busy right now with getting new grants out, so I imagine that this may not be closed out until maybe closer to the end of the year.
Yeah, I was gonna guess November, or December.
Yep. So, any questions with that? Alrighty, moving on to runway 927 safety area. We are still compiling final comments to get the final version to the FAA, so we should have that to them by the end of the month. And we'll try to time that so that we can have CIP discussions with them that will kind of determine some of the findings of this report in October. So So no action on the board for this one. Any questions?
Mm-mm.
No.
Alrighty. Similar for the wildlife hazard site visit, we have sent items on to the FAA for their review, but haven't received any comment back on that. Again, I think it's just kind of their busy season here, so no board action on this one right now. Nick, anything you want to add to that?
No, just, I've been talking with Simon, after we had the bird strike last month, we had one of our crop dusters hit a couple geese as it was taking off. We are not resubmitting at this time, but we have added it into some appendices that we will be submitting to the FAA. And then I'm working with Simon on updating our wildlife hazard, what did we call it? The wildlife hazard harassment policy for the airport. We're working on a couple new permits, some new policies, and some new procedures for harassing wildlife. One of the big ones that is new at airports is using green lasers. Birds specifically view those as an active threat, and it's a lot safer because you're not using bird bangers, which are small, kind of like bottle rocket type things. While those are effective, the lasers are even more effective. The ones that we need are, of course, more expensive because we're for an airport. But we're working through making sure we have the appropriate permits and licenses for harassing those animals. There's specific USDA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife permits that we have to have for harassment. We have seen a large increase in migratory birds this year. Starlings, not nearly as much as we have in the last few years, but we've seen more geese already this year than we saw in total last year. And so it's something that we're really working with our tenants. If you see something, please call us, let us know, and we'll send somebody out to try and get them off the field, because we know that, geese are one of the more
Yeah.
dangerous animals to have on the field. And so that's something that we've been battling here this last couple months, so.
How does a laser issue work? I mean, you have multiples.
No, it kind of looks like a rifle scope. It's got a little red dot scope on the top, and the way that you do it is you start on the ground, and you want to be elevated. So you drive a truck out to where the geese, 100 yards or so away, and you start on the ground. And the reason it's so expensive, the beam is quite a bit wider than what you would, if you were to go to the store and buy one. And then you just slowly bring it up, and when you get it close to the geese, they say that I've seen video, they'll leave, and I talked to a couple colleagues at other airports that are using them. They won't come back. They view that as a direct, almost like a coyote coming up and attacking them in the field. And nobody really knows why they feel that green lasers are such a threat to the bird, but it's been very, very good. It's a great way of passively removing that hazard from the airfield. So you have the upfront cost of the laser, but you don't have to maintain the bird bangers. You have basically a starter pistol that launches those explosives. You have to buy those. If one of them doesn't work, then you have to get the police department, bomb squad to come out and take care of unexploded, or there's just a whole lot of stuff that you have to do. And if you stand in a truck and point a bright green light at the birds and it has the same effect or a better effect, the upfront cost is more, but over time you're just putting a couple batteries in it every now and then. And the ones that this specific laser, I think I'm not looking at the quote, I want to say it was $2,600 or $2,700, but it does come with rechargeable batteries. They last 7 to 10 years, so there's a large upfront cost, but very, very minimal long-term cost on that. So
So the pilot procedure then, if they see them for
Call the
takeoff,
call the airport, and we'll come out.
and you guys
Yep.
come out.
Yep. Great question.
Alrighty, moving on to taxway Echo 1. So Vintage Brown came out at the end of August and fixed that small area that was kind of holding water. Nate, I don't know if you've been out there since to see since it's rained, or if it's rained since you've been out there.
It hasn't rained not since they fixed everything.
Okay. that's, a
It-
fixed
It looks a lot
institution.
better.
Yeah. So right now, we are just compiling the final and balancing change order, and then just pulling together closeout documentation for the October board meeting. We will most likely have the request from Finn and Brown as well for their retainage release at that October board meeting as well. So we do have just one CHA invoice for the board approval, so it would be a motion for board approval and Dan Robinson's signature on CHA invoice 58-412.6-13 in the amount of $6,174.64. And again, this is a local only project.
Do I hear a motion, approval of that invoice for CHA?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
John and Jean. Finish my notes here. Any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right, all approved. The amount,
Moving on to tax rate Bravo, we did have a meeting with FAA and NDOT last week on the 4th. And the good news is that the FAA believes that there's a very good chance of us receiving a grant application this week for tax rate Bravo. We originally were showing that grant to be partially discretionary and then partially some of the bill funding. And it sounds like now that they were able to get more discretionary dollars, so we won't have to use some of that bill or IIAJ money for that. So they are just getting the final paperwork in place. So I'm sorry, this cut off onto the second page, but we do have a motion for the board's approval for when that grant comes in place, because if you remember in years past, they don't give a very, quick turnaround. They want it, quickly turned around within a day or two. So we're just gonna have the board approve that, even though we haven't received it yet. So the motion would be for the board approval and Dan Robinson's signature on the FAA grant. There should be 2 grants. We don't have the AIP numbers for them yet, but the total of those grants would be for $2,836,121.50. So again, this would be an FAA grant, so the local share for that percentage would be $70,903.50.
all right.
Any questions with that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a grant for the FAA, why do we have a local share?
We always have a local share, so FAA grants used to be 90% FAA, 5% state, 5% local. They've recently changed to 95% FAA, 2.5% state, 2.5% local. And so of the 2.8 million, we will be, and I have to ask this, Mary, I apologize, the 2.836, that's just the FAA portion, that's not the total project.
That's the total,
That's the total project, okay.
Yeah.
So of the 2.836, 140-ish is gonna come from the state and our budget next year.
Yeah. And actually, I know that you said, it's gone back and forth. It used to be 95%, and it was 90. It keeps kind of
Bouncing back and forth, yeah.
It depends upon how much money is allocated to the AIP fund every couple of years.
And Mary, if you scroll back up a second, the other thing that I just wanted, no, you're fine. The other thing that I just want to point out, we applied to use our IIJA money, which was kind of guaranteed money, kind of like our non-proprietary entitlement funds. And the FAA said, you know what, you've been doing a lot of work down there with your money. We want to fund this with discretionary funds. Let you save that and let's find another project next year where we can put that money towards. So it's actually been, that was actually a really good conversation.
Yeah.
I called Mary after the phone call and I was like, did I understand right that they're doing, and if we get the grant that way, if that's how it's actually written and given to us, I mean, it'll save us some money and we can use that money next year towards another different grant.
Good.
Any other questions?
Okay, do I hear a motion for approval of BIL number 3-18-0085-024-2024?
Come on.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Gene? And
Second.
Steve will second. Any discussion further? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye. And none opposed, okay. That,
Mary, I did just think of this. Dan just mentioned before the meeting started, he is out on vacation starting the 21st. How long will you be out, Dan? A week?
I'll be back the weekend, 27th.
Do we want to?
Should we have the board authorize either, well, it'd have to be me because it's Dan or me to sign that grant. In Dan's absence, we would need a motion from the board. If Dan is gone, we may only have 2 or 3 days to get this grant signed and back to the FAA. I'm not sure what their deadline is going to be this year, but in the past, we've had it as short as 48, 72 hours before where we have to turn this paperwork in. Is that something the board would be comfortable, having me sign it in Dan's absence?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
So we would need a motion for that, I think, right, Mary? To sign in Dan's absence?
Yeah, yep.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
Second.
Steve second, John made the motion. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right, none opposed.
Alrighty, thank you. For general services, we don't have any update for this month. For the airport overlay district, we're still working on a written draft to kind of share with the airport and the city for those new zoning ordinances.
And Mary, I need to talk,
Under-
I need to talk with you and Rob tomorrow. I've got a couple updates on that for you.
Okay, alrighty. Yeah, Rob, anything you want to add to that?
Sounds like we'll talk to them tomorrow about it.
Alrighty.
All good motion. We're moving in the right direction.
Alright, now the one that has been keeping us all busy for the last month.
Yeah.
You were, Runway 927, if you remember, last month we had not even started, work on this. So now they have already, paved, they've done it, they basically have done everything. They paved, last week, they put a half the application of paint on Saturday, and the runway is now open. Tomorrow, Thinner Brown will be out, to, put seating down in some of the areas that they disturbed. And then they will return, in October to perform grooving and full, paint application at that time. So, right now, the half application, well, it doesn't include glass beads in it, so if you go out at night, it won't have those glass beads, but, it's still probably a lot better if anyone has flown in on it.
Yep.
Still probably quite a bit better, flying in. And, we were doing, well with, quantities, so, we did end up painting, the other end of the runway to try to, help pilots to be able to speed for landing and taking off better as well. So, we'll be including that, extra paint in the change order
How long will the
Any
runway be
questions?
shut down for that?
I think the grooving itself is 4 or 5 days. Mary, I don't have the schedule in front of me. I think, I want to say it's 4 or 5. It's not a fast process is the downside. I have spoken with Brent. We don't have this in writing yet, but he is confident that if there is a flight that has to come in and out that cannot operate out of the north-south runway, we should be able to do what is called a PPR. So pilots would have to let us know a few hours ahead of time of when they plan to land, and then they would need to call on the radio 15 minutes prior, and PPR's prior permission received, 15 minutes ahead of time. We would be able to remove the grooving pavement or equipment and then get the aircraft into land. What he was checking with the groovers on is would they be able to clear the runway in that 15 minutes of any debris that could be on the runway. That was the one thing he was worried about. So we may not be able to do that. So worst case scenario, we'd be shut down for 4 or 5 days.
That would include the painting?
Mm-hmm.
So, for this, we have a motion for, CHA, invoice, so motion for board approval and Dan Robinson's signature on CHA invoice 5841211-08 in the amount of $41,870. And again, this is a local only project.
Okay, do I hear a motion in favor of approval of this invoice?
So moved.
Steve?
So moved.
All right, Steve made the motion.
I'll second it.
And John second. Any discussion on this? Questions, okay? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. The 5841211-08, $41,870.
Thank you. Okay, and then finally, we have Taxway Alpha, basis of design. If you remember, we had submitted this to the FAA for a grant application back in June, using some of the bill or IIJA funds that were going to be expiring. So we actually did receive a grant last week from the FAA. I think, I don't know, Nick, if you want to talk about.
Yeah,
the
I'll explain.
signature on that.
I completely misread the email. Dan emailed me and asked if the grant was legit, and when I read through the grant from the FAA, I thought both of us needed to sign it, and I signed it in my area, and I realized they only needed one airport signature. So I apologize, Dan. I signed it on behalf of the airport, so that's why
That's
we
all
need
right.
the authorization for me to have signed that for the FAA. So I apologize. I read that wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure if it was a legitimate email. I've been
Yep.
getting so many scams anymore that,
So the one that you will get at the end of the month that we just talked about earlier, it'll look the exact same as that one did. So when I see
Okay.
it come through, I'll make sure I either call or text you, and
Okay.
we'll get it figured out.
okay, so,
Just a reminder for this one, it's mainly just the basis of design, so, we were kind of going back and forth with FAA and DOT on, wanting to, whether or not this pavement needed a reconstruction or a rehab, so this is kind of doing some of that preliminary work so that we can, show justification for the project.
So this will include like some geotech and some survey and some basic design, right, Mary?
Yep. So there will be, after this, we'll do a full design.
I don't see a grant number in association with this.
I just realized I forgot to put that in, so I'll pull that after, while we move on to the next business. I must have got distracted. But I can find that here in just a moment.
Okay,
It is grant ASW Oh, hold on. GLG dash 3 dash 18 dash 0085 dash 025 dash 2025.
You lost me. I can't write that
You get all that,
fast.
Dan?
No,
Oh, she's got it up there.
So 318, 0085, 025, 2025.
You got it up there.
okay, I almost got it, kept up.
I was just trying to type what you were saying. I'm surprised that it was actually.
You got it.
Okay,
So, then we would just be asking for a motion for board approval and Nick's signature on FAA, ARP grant number as shown on the screen in the amount of $99,500. So then that would be a local share of $2,488.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
any discussion on this one? Now, this is for design work only,
Correct.
this grant, so,
Yeah.
All right.
Preliminary design work, I'll
Okay.
put that caveat on there.
all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Alrighty, that is all I have on my agenda. Thank you, everyone.
Any other questions for Mary or Rob?
Nope.
I did have one question. On the, I'm sorry. On the taxiway B rehabilitation,
Yep.
what's the general scope of that plan?
So for that one, we had already done design for that, so that would be a construction project.
Yeah, but is
So we
it,
received-
is
so,
it,
they're doing the pavement rehabilitation, similar to what was done on the runway.
so it's repair cracks and mill and resurface?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yep.
Yep. Sorry,
Excuse
put
me.
that in there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any more questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank
None.
you all.
Thank you.
You.
Okay, managers report.
All right, well, just, we're trying, Kelsey and I have been playing with the numbers, as you guys said, so this is iteration attempt number 1, just to see what you guys think. It's a lot of the same data, just a little bit differently formatted. As you guys can see, we are up in our fuel sales, which is good. We're almost dead even on avgas, but we're up a little over 10,000 gallons for the year on Jet A, which is good. Yeah, and unless you guys had any really specific questions, I know we have a couple board members that need to have some other prior engagements and to try and get through the rest of the meeting. We have a couple other things on the agenda, unless you guys have specific questions.
No, I don't have any. Do you guys have any?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think next on the agenda is the budget for the year. I did present this at the last city council meeting and wanted to make sure you guys saw it as well and I could answer any questions that you might have. Steve, this is your first budget cycle with us, so congratulations. Stop me if you have questions as we go throughout. A big thing that I do, so the current year is the money that we currently have budgeted in those appropriations for this year, and then the projected year is what we would be spending out of those appropriations for next year. First line is personnel services, so salaries, wages, employee benefits, and all of those numbers come directly from the Human Resources Department. They give all of the different departments what those projected numbers are for the year. They work with the wage committee and the mayor's office to put all of those numbers together. And then the insurance numbers obviously come from the AIM Medical Trust. And so I do my part to try and stay as up to date on which employee is going to be using which medical plan so that we can get as close of a budget number on that as possible. So right now, for the year, because the way that our insurance changed from last year to this year, we're actually going to see the personal services go down 0.12% for the year. And that's including, some pay raises and adjustments on the employee side as well. So are there any questions on the first section here?
I had one in particular. As I read this, wages are projected to go up by 1.44%. That's about a third of the way down the page. But the FICA taxes are supposed to go up 21.19%.
Let me pull up my sheet and can I address that question after the meeting and show you
Sure.
the calculations on that?
The other question I had is, I don't know what PERF stands for.
PERF is the Public Employee Retirement Fund, and so there is, again, we are given a percentage of salaries and hourly wages that need to go into that PERF, and then the employees contribute some, and then the city contributes some as well.
Got it, thank you.
And they're participating also in that
Correct.
payment.
Section 2 is supplies. So as you guys are looking at the new forms that we submitted, you can kind of look at these and see, 210 is office supplies, 220 is operating supplies, and you can see office supplies, stationery paper, we're staying flat across the board through our supplies for next year. When we sat down and looked at the budget last year versus this year and what we have spent this year so far, I was comfortable with not raising those at all. We should be okay next year. Other services and charges, professional services, put a 15% increase in that. That's just, with a lot of the projects that we have going on between legal fees and engineering, I just felt that we needed to increase that a little bit. Communication and travel, that's conferences and cell phones, things like that come out of there. And so that's going to stay flat for next year. Printing and advertising, social media, public advertisements, public notice to bids, all of those different costs come out of the printing and advertising. That we're probably going to stay pretty flat. Insurance liability, that is all of our insurance for the airport hangars, keepers, liability, and we don't typically get those numbers until closer to the end of the calendar year. And so I always budget a 15% increase in insurance. And then once we receive what the premiums are going to be for the next year, then I go in and I work with the clerk's office and we do what's called a line one cut. We say, hey, we know that these costs are not going to be quite as high, so we can deduct that out of our budget for the coming year.
And what happens if it's higher?
Then I have to do what's called an additional appropriation, or I have to find money that we aren't going to spend in another appropriation and do a line transfer. Yep.
Right.
Knock on wood, I don't want this to be the curse of the first year. In 13 years, we haven't had that happen yet where I've been under, but I'm hoping I won't be,
Would
so.
never surprise me.
Yep.
Don't jinx it, John.
Yeah, don't jinx it. Repairs and maintenance, we did go up $10,000. Things are just getting more expensive. Equipment and repairs on that equipment it is higher. We're very blessed to have the city street department, central garage help us with a lot of those repairs. But the cost of the actual goods have just gone up, so we had to increase that slightly. And then other than that, the other services and charges, the big unknown in that is the AWOS and the ILS. AWOS is our weather system, the ILS is our instrument landing system. I was able to secure a 3-year price lock when we last signed that contract. That contract is up in the next month or two, and so I'm hoping that I can negotiate and secure another price lock for the next 3 years, but I don't know what that new contract is gonna be. So again, I added 10%, hoping that the cost, I went back 3 years and the cost did not go up 10% the last time we renegotiated, so I'm hoping that trend there. And then employee recognition, that's just part of the HR department's program for internal employee recognition, and we get those numbers from the HR department. So overall, the other services has gone up 10.55%, which takes us to capital outlays, the big portion. So the improvements other than buildings, big project in '26 is the phase 2 of our main runway resurfacing. We would be putting approximately $500,000 to $600,000 into that. The county has verbally committed to a $500,000 match. We are looking into seeing if we can use the bid we currently have in place, or if we have to rebid that project, because it does cross calendar years and we only technically awarded phase 1. So we have legal looking into what our options are, and if Fenn and Brown would entertain using that bid. I don't know what the process for that is, so we're checking into that. So that's what that money would be going towards. And then machinery and equipment, we do have a small increase because we're gonna be, we have to replace one of our snow plows. So we're gonna be working on that project next year, one of our plow trucks, so. Capital outlays total, current year 700,000, next year we're projecting 750,000, which is a 7.14% increase. That last page just kind of walks through everything, and so a year-to-year total, we'll see about a 4.8% increase. Any questions?
I don't have any at this point.
A little unrelated, but you kind of mentioned the ILS. Where are we at with getting that?
So the ILS still is classed as an ILS, but the glide slope is not working, the
Right.
localizer and DMER. And for us to repair the glide slope is $500,000. That's what it costs. And so, right now, with all the other projects we have going on, we have GPS with WAS and LPV. It's the same minimums as the ILS. It is on our list to replace in a couple years, but with the asphalt where it's at right now, and us having the same approach with a GPS, it's good to have the ILS backup, don't get me wrong. But we have other priorities that we really need to be putting our money towards right now, so that's just, we don't have enough cash. If somebody showed up and said, hey, Nick, here's $500,000, what do you wanna do with it, you know? I'd really have to sit down and look at, do we do more asphalt, or do we replace the ILS? I mean, that's just kind of where we're at right now, so.
Any of the corporates complain because we haven't had it?
No, they all use GPS. Every one of them uses the GPS approach, so. It's honestly a lot of the GA guys that don't have the precision GPS approach ability in their aircraft. And it is very nice to have the ILS because it is great to have as a backup, or to have on a secondary screen in a corporate. You can fly both. That being said, I would really like the FAA to come in and own that ILS and maintain it. The Fort Wayne Operations Office would love to have that. I mean, they already service our radio equipment and our PAPIs for 27. It would take, they said we could happily pull the ILS into our fold, but if we go for an FAA grant to replace all of that equipment, if we got the justification and everything worked out, all of the other current projects that we have in the slot for, like the taxiway projects and all of that gets bumped. So it's using the same pot of money, and an ILS will not compete anywhere near as well as the pavement will. It just won't. The pavement, when the FAA is doing their grading, and Rob, feel free to step in and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're looking at that 0 to 100 score, when the FAA is doing their matrix for grant funding, ILS is nowhere near as high as asphalt is.
We go along with
Yeah,
that.
that's
a
accurate.
pilot.
Like a lot of times, we weren't able to justify that, if you were able to include that in the project, because it's included in
Yeah,
that
just wanted to
right
let you know.
Thank you, Mary. So if there's no other questions, I know Jeannie's, I'll try and hurry through the last two items quick. Any final questions on the budget?
I don't have any more.
Nope.
Do you
Nope.
have any more, Steve?
The point I raised, Nick and I
Yep.
can talk about it.
We'll
later.
get that figured
Okay.
out.
Thank you.
This one's pretty easy. I fully support this. Bishop Family Farms has been has been leasing our farm ground for the last 3 years. They do have an option to extend. They would like to use that option and exercise it and continue to farm our ground. They've been great tenants, and I would love to have Bishop Farms continue for the next 3 years. At the end of that, we will have to go back out for public bid again. But this would just give him that 3-year option to extend, so.
I'll entertain a motion for,
Did we advertise that?
We did
Nobody else
we
bid
did,
on it?
no, we did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And part of part of his land lease was he got 3 years, and then if he wanted to farm it again, he had that option to. So with his option, he gets it for another 3 years, and then in 28, we will go out for bid again.
New
for,
bid, okay. I
calendar
make a
29.
motion to accept this Bishop proposal of $24,421.50 for the next 3 years.
That's each year for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay, any discussion? Second?
Second.
All right, Steve seconds. All in favor of this motion, signify by aye.
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 All approved.
Okay. The last one, you guys have a handout in front of you with some pricing for X1 FBO. We currently use Total One FBO for our accounting software at the airport. And as you remember, it was 5 or 6 years ago, we migrated from an old version of Total FBO to a cloud-based version of FBO. We had been very happy with that for the last few years, and just in the last 18 months, our service has definitely started going down. We're having issues logging in, we're having issues with credit cards being able to be processed. Saturday, Kelsey and I got a call from the line tech that was on duty. There was some security encryption code that needed to be updated that they never sent out an email or called tech customers or anything, and so luckily, the pilot that was purchasing the fuel just left the credit card with our line tech and went for his meeting, and we got everything solved by the time he got back, but we had to call the help desk, and they had to remote in and do some update, and it's just getting to the point where we really need to look for another solution. We have demoed a few different groups, and we really like the X1 software. And we'll kind of go through this proposal. They do ask that we don't publicly share the numbers because they custom build these quotes for every single tenant. I understand that we are a public entity, so at the end of the day, when we sign our contract, that will have to be publicly made public. But right now, while we're still negotiating and figuring out what services we would like, I would ask that we don't make those numbers public. The nuts and bolts of everything, looking through this agreement, the very first section, we would be setting up all of the data migration. So they would come in, they would look at all of the all of the customer data and current information that we have in our system. They have worked with Total FBO before, so they would be able to pull from our data and migrate it into their system. And there is an initial upfront cost from building our platform, on-site training, getting everything ready, plus some physical devices that we would need to purchase through this, and that would be a little under $10,000. We'll put it at that. You guys can see the direct number there. We would not be purchasing, they have us quoted for 3 single-point armor device kits. We would only be purchasing 2, so we would need to clean up a little bit of that quote, but this, we wanted them to quote us on the heavy side, and then we can pull back services we don't want if we decide to move forward with this product. Once everything has been built, it is a subscription-based program like most cloud software. That's just where the industry has gone. The nice thing with that is we will no longer have to maintain a server at the airport that houses a lot of that information. It'll all be housed through this program. And so we would be looking at the second section, that section 5, the monthly subscription charges. We would need to have the first one, the X1 FBO core and fuel management, as well as the single point module and the accounting module. And then the single point device subscription, it's got 3. Like I said, we would only be purchasing 2. Those are on a mobile cellular plan. And what that is, think of that as a small, like an iPhone-like device that the guys can carry. And it really helps prevent misfuelings. That's the main reason for it. So when they walk out to that aircraft, or they drive out with the truck, they hit jet truck, and then they will literally type in the tail number of the aircraft. It'll pull up all of that aircraft's information, and then they'll put in how much fuel the pilot wants, and then when they're done with that, the pilot reads it over, they sign it. Now we have a written document that shows this pilot wants this much fuel and these services for this aircraft. And it's a CYA for the airport and the line text. No, that is what you asked for. Because there's been times where we have pilots, they'll say, oh, we'll shut off the fuel. They have the ability in the aircraft to shut off the fuel when they want 800 gallons. So we just stand there and we'll hold the dead man switch, and that truck will keep pumping until it runs out or they shut the fuel off inside the airplane. And pilot gets distracted by something and they wanted 800 gallons and they forgot to shut it off, and so we put 950 on there. Well, this will give us that piece of paper, or a digital copy of, no, you said you would shut it off in the aircraft when you ordered your fuel, and it just helps protect the airport a little bit on that. The other thing that I would really look at is that X1 TRX. It's you can see what they've quoted it there for us. That's about half of what we are currently paying for our tracking software. We're using a software called Vertower right now, and that's about half of what we're currently paying. And so if we were able to transition to this new program, that's a pretty big cost savings that we would have there too. And then the X1 portal, it's a neat portal, and what it would do is it would give a gateway to all of our based tenants to be able to log into their phone and request fuel and get on our schedule that way. I don't think that's something that we would use right now. We may grow into that in the future, but right now, all of our tenants call us on the radio or call us on the cell phone to get on our fuel list. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend maybe holding on the X1 portal. And so you can see what that total monthly cost would be. It'll be about $300 or so less than that of what we would be paying per month. We currently pay, between our tracking software and Total FBO, about $1,100 a month, as you guys are aware. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not that much more expensive. And so I'm giving you all of the information. It's a lot. You're drinking from the fire hose right now. The only other thing is there is an annual cost of $1,400. That's just to have our data backed up a second time, just so we make sure there is that data continuity infrastructure fee. So it would be a little pricey to get everything set up and implemented, but I think once it's going, one of the big things Kelsey and I really liked with this is it moves a lot of our paper to digital, so we won't be having to print invoices. We won't be having to mail invoices, so we're saving on envelopes and stamps and all of the paper. There are ways that we can go in and at a much more micro level be tracking our fuel. Our jet tanks, we can store up to 4 loads of Jet A in those tanks. And so knowing which fuel lots we have in there and what we paid for each lot, right now we're doing all of that by hand. And so it's a lot more difficult to track where we're at in those fuel sales and what days is the best day to adjust those prices. This would automate a lot of that and allow us to really maximize our earnings. On average, I've called a couple other airports that use them. That when they switched to X1, they saw anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a month in increases in sales, and even more in revenue, just because they are able to capture a lot of those. When you're splitting a cent, sometimes fuel prices might change a half a cent. And so when they're able to capture that half a cent on a, 4,000 gallon fuel uplift, that half a cent does matter. And so I think we could see some good gains. So I think it's the direction we need to be moving. It is the I would say the current industry standard for a point of sale system for FBO. But again, you guys are the ones that have to make that final decision, and if you want to take a month and think about it, look at it, come up with questions, we can do that. If you think, no, this is great, let's get this ball going, we can start that too. I just wanted to start the conversation.
2 questions I have off the top of my head. One is data security. Have you had that discussion with them?
We had our IT director for the city in on the call, and they meet and exceed.
Okay. I'm always leery about cloud services.
Yep.
The other one is the portal. You said you don't think we would use that now. Would you not think that the corporates would want that?
No, yes, but no. The reason I say no is the corporates use a different portal. This would be more for the general aviation tenants.
Okay.
So corporates, and I just brain farted, what's the email we always get for all of the different? I can see it in my head. There's a different program that we are tied into that we don't pay for, the corporates do, that manage all of their trips. FlightBridge, thank you. FlightBridge. FlightBridge is the same thing. It is a portal that we get all of that information from. Gene, have a good night.
Are you gonna let us think about this for a month?
That's fine. If that's the way the board wants to go, that's just fine. But John, to answer your question, FlightBridge is the same software, but on the corporate side. And then it has a whole mess of other things that
Okay.
GA pilots would never need.
But
So
I
they-
agree with you that the general aviation public would not use it.
Yeah.
I would rather just call.
Yeah.
It's simpler.
And if we had, if something changed and say, we had a flight school move here next month that had 35 aircraft, yeah, okay, that's worth the price there, because they could their flight instructors could go in and it would help manage when the fuel truck needs to be there instead of taking 35 calls a day. We don't
Right.
have that right now, and so I think it's wise just to save our money, at least for the time being. And if we grow into it, that's a great problem, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Did we establish a new meeting date?
Not yet.
Recognizing that I am not counsel for the airport